Brighton manager Roberto De Zerbi spoke to talkSPORT following his side's 3-1 win over Man United at Old Trafford. Not destruction, horrible people in there. He said the more you enjoy football, the better you play.
Because football is a joke, no? Serious joke, because we have the responsibility with our club, with our fans. But anyway, it's a joke, and I think you can play better if you are able to enjoy.
He has done a ridiculously good job there, hasn't he?
Oh my God! When you look at some of the whoopings he's put on some certain teams as well, like Brighton, who, listen, I spent a bit of time down there. I loved it. I was only down there for 4 weeks, Brighton, but the infrastructure's there. Training ground is second to none. The stadium's lovely. But when you look at what they've done, obviously a few years on from then, and some of the results they've got, I mean, they're the likes of beating Chelsea 4-1s, and obviously they've beaten you lot. They've beaten Arsenal last season, was it 3-0? They've beaten Liverpool 3-0. He's got some big results there, and there was a time, I remember Lewis Dunk was talking about it, that they had to kind of overcome that. They were playing great stuff, and they were beating the teams they were supposed to, but every time they came up against one of them teams that was perceived as the big four, big six, they'd struggle. That's not a problem for them anymore. They feel like they are one of the big six. And he said that they've beaten you 3-1. They've smashed Newcastle 3-1. They've had some unbelievable results under De Zerbi, and they're only going to get better and better, I think.
Fifth in the Premier League, 1 point behind Spurs, Arsenal and Liverpool, sixth last season as well. We talked before about what players he gets to perform under him that perhaps when they leave aren't necessarily great. Cristiano might be one. Mudryk, of course, when he was at Shakhtar as well. What does he bring to this Brighton side that apart from goals, which is the obvious answer, that Graham Potter didn't have?
Just the way that they play on the front foot. I almost feel like they pass with purpose, and everything they do in their rotations, in their movement, is all geared to an effort at the end of the attack, end of that phase. So even that goal against Manchester United, which Pascal Gross scores, when there's loads and loads of passes and they kind of tempt Manchester United in, all it takes is one person to switch off. And Manchester City do it really well. They're just moving it left to right, left to right. The moment Gross gets it in the middle of the pitch, switches it, bang, and then there's an overload. They create 2v1s on the flanks all the time. The moment that happens, Pascal Gross again has the freedom of the whole of Old Trafford. No one tracked his run, scores a great goal. They're really clever at what they do, certainly with their movements, creating 2v1s all over the pitch. I'm
going to ask Brighton fans to phone up now. If you dial in 03717 223344, we're only doing this for about 4 minutes. If you dial in now, I'll put you straight there. Talk about your club, talk about the victory over Man United, talk about your manager. So Brighton fans, how great is he? 03717 223344. While people are dialing in, Benty, let me ask you this. Some managers, you could argue Graham Potter is one of them, although I think it's a little bit unfair because I think when he left Brighton and went to Chelsea, they're a bit of a basket case of a club. They had way too many players. It was just impossible for him to fix that problem. But is he a manager that you think won't have a problem stepping up to a much bigger club?
So I don't think he will, but you got to think, when you talk about what the job that he does and what he's done at Brighton is fantastic. When you step up to that level of club, different expectations, different pressure. At the minute now, I almost feel Brighton are still in that phase where it's a little bit like, if they finish in the top 6 or top 8, it's like, oh, what an achievement for Brighton. Do you know what I mean? I know they did it last season, and rightly so, and I think they could do it quite easily again this year. It's almost like, yeah, if they finish in the top 8, top 7, oh yeah, what a job. When you go and manage a club now that's expecting to win trophies, expecting Champions League football every season, minimum requirement Champions League, comes with a different level of pressure. And also, when you look at Brighton's recruitment, where they're going to find someone from miles away we don't know about, sign them for cheap money and turn them into a superstar, when all of a sudden they've got to deal with the BEOs, the Rashfords, the Bruno Fernandes, these guys, where at times could be a little bit petulant, could make it difficult. He's got all these added little things where he's going to have to weigh out. Like Graham Potter at Chelsea. At Brighton, everything was fine. Goes to Chelsea, big egos. Some of the players in the dressing room not really having him. Absolutely struggles. So if De Zerbi can handle that, which I think he can do, then I think he could be a real success at one of these big clubs.
Let's speak to a Brighton fan. Michael's ready now. Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very well. We won't talk about the weekend's game. We're just talking about your manager. Is that okay?
Well, that's if you want to talk about the weekend or not.
The weekend didn't even happen, Michael. Listen, we talked a lot about Man United in the first hour, understandably, but as I said, I don't know if you heard the top of the show, I take nothing away from Brighton. They were the much better team on the day. They've been playing wonderful football for a long, long time. They deserved it. They're brilliant. The manager's fantastic. You must be, as a Brighton fan, obviously on cloud 9. But what are your aspirations now for the season? It's early. You finished 6th last season. Are you looking at top 4? Benty said at the beginning of the season, if there's a club that could potentially get Champions League football, you've got to talk about Brighton in that conversation. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, we could potentially get top 4, but I would say let's take it game by game, because it is early in the season, as you said, but right now there is so much excitement about the club and how we performed last season and how we're performing this season as well. It's just the whole performances. They are so exciting to watch right now, and honestly, I've been going to every game sort of the last 3-4 years, and the changes that we've seen, it's been absolutely incredible.
Let me ask you, Michael. I look at Brighton in the way the club is run, a little bit like how Leicester was run. I thought Leicester, of course, a fantastically run club, and then they went on to unbelievable achievements, winning the league, obviously in the FA Cup as well. Do you see Brighton potentially not necessarily win the league, because that's just ridiculous, but getting better and better and better, and then perhaps maybe knocking on the door of an FA Cup or not?
I feel like we can challenge for a trophy. I think we are starting to become highly ambitious with how we are looking at our targets. And I love our manager. He's so great, and it's pretty much our gain to Chelsea's loss, really. But I would say that, yeah, we are looking very high up the table at the moment and going on runs, but I would say keep ourselves level-headed, because the manager tells us to keep level-headed as well, and see how far we can get into some competitions as well. And I'm looking forward to our European campaign as well.
Do you know what, Michael? And Andy, it's one of those where, and he's right, that's the only thing I think that maybe could upset them is the European run. Listen, they could go far in that competition, but have they got the squad to be able to balance challenging for top four? Now in the Europe, domestic cup competitions coming up as well. Have they got the squad big enough? That's the only thing where they pick up 1 or 2 injuries. You think, can they cope with that? But and then again, that's a challenge itself.
As you said, was it 6 changes against Man United the weekend? Mark's also a Brighton fan. Hello, Mark.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Marky. Off you go.
Yeah, all good. You?
I'm good, thank you very well for asking. I've been better on a Monday, if I'm being honest, after the football, but I'm sure you feel wonderful today.
Yeah, I've not had a bad Monday, to be fair. I work with a couple of United fans, so it's been all right.
Okay, what would you like to say about your side?
It was just that he mentioned about what the biggest difference between De Zerbi and Potter, and obviously the end product and the goals and everything. But I think the biggest thing from looking in for me is that it's the ambition that he's got. I think Graeme Potter always made us feel like we're almost lucky to be in the Premier League and competing with these teams, whereas De Zerbi's kind of come in and said, well, you're a Premier League team, you've got good players, and he's just going to push us on. And his belief has kind of transferred to the supporters. And I think even the chairman's mentioned this week in an interview that he kind of pushes everyone at the club on a bit. And I think that's the biggest difference, more than, well, obviously the technical side of the football as well. But for me, that's the biggest difference.
Mark, is it one of them scenarios where you said that Graeme Potter almost made you believe, and then De Zerbi made it a reality that we can beat and compete with these top teams?
I don't think Potter actually sometimes believed we could compete. I think he was very much talked about kind of knowing our place, and that, we were lucky. He obviously got us some results against bigger teams, Potter, but I don't think he ever fully believed, and I think he maybe would have got there if we'd have stayed there an extra year and hadn't jumped ship for the money. But ultimately, I think De Zerbi's come in and just gone, boom, we can go and do this. We've got the players, you got the coach now. Let's start believing in ourselves a bit more, and that's what a lot of the reason as to where we are now, I think.
Where will you finish your season, Mark?
I'd say just outside of top 4. I think Darren made a good point. I think we've got a decent squad, but European football is going to be. It depends what we do in January. We can't sell anyone. We'll have to add a couple more players if anything. But I'd say 5th, 6th, which would be unreal, obviously. But you never know. Champions League could be a possibility.
Okay.
So.
I think we'll worry about that. Let's find a little 10 million from somewhere and go and buy 6 players for like 500,000 a piece, and then sell them on for 200 million.
Yeah, Chelsea will buy them in 18 months' time.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.